Okay, let's me do a sharing for the video. Okay, are you ready? Topic 3. Okay, requirement engineering. Alright, so everyone seen my screen right now, right? Let me stop my camera first so that the video will be better loading and smooth lah. Okay. Okay guys, let's start topic 3.
Assalamualaikum. Hello everyone. We are from Group B3 and we will be presenting our topic on requirement engineering. More specifically, understanding the requirement in engineering. First off, we're going to look at the definition of requirement. A requirement is defined as a condition or capability to which a system must conform. It can be a capability needed by a customer or user to solve a problem or achieve an objective, or it can be a capability that must be met or possessed by a system to satisfy a contract, standard, specification, regulation, or other formally imposed document. Next, we have source of requirement. In source of requirement, we have 3 levels: business level, user level, and product level. All these 3 levels are tied to one another, as you can see in our paragraph that we have here. Next, we have type of requirement, which is the key part of the source of requirement. We have user requirements, system requirements, functional requirements, non-functional requirements, and domains requirements. After that, we're going to look at the list of characteristics of a good requirement. First, we have unambiguous. Second, testable. Third, clear. Fourth, correct. Fifth, understandable. Sixth, feasible. 7, independent. 8, atomic. 9, necessary. And 10, implementation free. And now we have reached the cause of wrongly stated requirement. As you can see, we have included a paragraph of a pie chart which consists the problem that we might encounter if the requirements that we made are wrongly stated. Factually, 37% of the problem are related to the requirement phases. Next, we have requirements engineering processes. The processes used for the requirement engineering vary widely depending on the application domain, the people involved, and the organization developing the requirements. However, there are a number of generic activities common to all processes. It consists requirement elicitation, requirement analysis, requirement validation, and requirement management. In practice, requirement engineering is an iterative activity in which these processes are interleaved. Software engineers work with a range of a system stakeholder to find out about the application domain, the service that the system should provide, the required system performance, hardware constraints, other systems, etc. The stages include requirement discovery, requirement classification and organization, requirement prioritization and negotiation, and requirements specification. Requirement elicitation techniques. We have 3 techniques of this. First, we have the asking technique, which we will be conducting interview, Delphi technique, and brainstorming station. After that, we have the observing technique, which consists task analyze, scenario analyze, ethnography, and form analyze. The alternative of these 2 techniques, we have the validation techniques, which we have the prototyping, role play, use case analyze. Okay, in many workplace, we are bound to encounter many sort of problems. Same goes to this topic, issues in requirement. First, we have wicked problem. Most large software systems address wicked problem. Inconsistency, the system and user and organization who pay for the system has different requirements. Next, clashes. To minimize weight, the number of separate chips in the system should be minimized. And now we reach the requirement checking. Okay, after the requirement that we have included, we need to check if all the requirement has been fulfilled, which we will go to the validity, consistency, realism and completeness. Requirements class. Okay, there are two types of requirement class, which the first one is enduring requirements, which is the stable requirement derived from the core activity of the customer organization. For example, in hospital, we always have doctors and nurses who treat their patient. Next, we have the volatile requirements. Requirements which change during development or when the system is in use. For example, in a hospital, it has a requirement derived from the healthcare policy. Okay, that's all from me. Thank you for watching.
Okay. So actually okay. Ada yang bagi tepuk tangan Right. Right. Okay. The presentation actually good. Okay. Just short and precise, which is only for the summary of the topic. Actually, the summary of the topic is very good. Okay. Actually, it's about the summary lah. If talking about summary, yes, you are giving a good summary. Okay, for your friends. Right. But in terms of explanations, of course lah, it's not complete. Right. Okay. But anyhow, okay. Anyway, okay. Let me paste the understanding pool first for everyone to make a vote first. Right? So check the chat box. Okay. So choose your level of understanding for this topic 3. Okay. Either you are fully understand, okay, talking about the requirement. Okay, there is a lot of requirement, right? Okay. Some of talking about the process, some talking about the stages, structured, the definition, so many things. Okay, and the good characteristics of good requirement. Okay, right. So we have 8 voters currently, 10. Okay, keep voting. So don't worry, the questions for the quiz also not so, it's just a basic, not so difficult. You can answer it. Okay, wait, let me check. Okay. Okay, remember that in requirement engineering, talking about the functional requirement, non-functional requirement, user requirement, I believe that some of you might also find all that words, okay, in your reading, in your because you are all a computer science student, right? Okay, you might find all these requirement, and requirement is important, right? In your project also you need to have a requirement. The project requirement, of course, included the user requirement. Okay. Okay. We have 27 voters, 28. Yes, I need 2 more. Okay, I might forgot to ask a group 577 before your tutorial class. Okay, remember that next week, okay, actually you are given excuse on the class on 17, right? 17 for the pilihan raya, for the voting sessions. Okay, so no class starting for 17, but 14, next week 14 to 16, we do have a class. Okay, but if I'm asking a group, because 14, 15, and 16 are included until tomorrow, okay, which is involve your lecture. Of course, we know that online, your tutorial sessions for group A and B. Okay, if I'm asking you the next week, what do you prefer? You want to have a physical or you want to do online? Because we have choice to do either online or physical.
Online, Doctor.
Online. Semua nak balik kampung kan? Okay, alright. So we do have a class, remember 14 to 16, but online. Okay, I will give you the link as usual lah, one day before before the class. Okay. Hujung minggu ni dah boleh balik kampung dah kan? Okay. Okay. Let me check the voters. Alright. One more, 29. We have 40 something, right? So how come we couldn't achieve only 20? Okay, one more voters who have not yet vote, included the one who doing the video. You also can vote. Who knows that you do the topics, but you also did not understand. So far, I did not yet found a group that doing a topic asking me you couldn't understand the topic. Okay, actually you can ask me the slide early. You can also ask me if you couldn't understand. That's the purpose lah, for you to learn first. Your groups to learn first. Alright, we have already 31. Okay, so let's do a quiz for 5 minutes. Now 2:27. So 5 minutes 2:32, right? Okay. So I post in the chat box the link. Only 2 questions as usual. A simple basic questions talking about the requirement engineering. Senang je tu kan, sub-sui je tu. Okay. First question is, which requirement are related to system attribute such as reliability and response time? Reliability and response, which one? Non-function, domain, functional, or software? Question number 2, SRS stand for. Okay, so in tutorial session, you will do your SRS later on for your project. So SRS stand for System Requirement Specification, Software Requirement Specifications, System Requirement Software, or Software Requesting Service. Which one? Okay. Those finish, answer the quiz. You may take 5 first, take a coffee maybe, right? Okay, I already received 1 response. 1 already done the quiz. Jangan tidur je lah kan. Buat kopi tu okey lah petang-petang ni kan. So have you decided who you want to vote for the pilihan raya? Vote for the party or vote for the person? Okay, 9 done, 10, alright, good. Wow, fokus betul jawab soalan sampai tak terjawab soalan saya kan. So most of you maybe have, hopefully, okay, after my explanations, maybe have become yes. But good news, no one said no. At least you get something from this topic, your video, your friend's video presentation just now. Okay. I like the tonation used in the video. Okay, just like I said that the presentation quite fast and you do a summary only, okay, instead of you sharing with your friends. Okay, remember that topic presentation you have maximum 15 minutes, yeah. So use the times. You don't have to maximum 15 minutes, but the maximum lah. You can have less than that, but don't over 15 minutes because we don't want to see the video too long, right? Otherwise, you might fall asleep because you are watching movie kan. Okay, 29 already response. Anak muda pilih PAS, ya ke? Okay. Kan keundi tu rahsia, Aizat. Okay. Dia cakap je tu kan. Who knows, right? Dia peminat-peminat Mahathir. Tak boleh cakap pasal politik pula kan. Okay. Ayat TikTok. Ya ke? Okay, alamak. Saya dah lama tak tengok TikTok, tak ada masa. Okay. Hujung minggu saya fly pergi KK. Saya ada mengajar student master lagi. So, very handy lah for me. Okay, okay, 31 already done the quiz. Okay, while waiting your friends, you have tadi tu 27, 5, 23, and you have 3 minutes more. 54. So supposedly we have 50 minus 248 response. I'm not sure that anyone using two devices. Amirul dengan Amirul Ashraf ni different person kan? Amirul Ashraf, and then Amirul Firdaus lagi. Sometimes in one class, ada 4 nama yang sama. Depan dia jelas nama kan sama. Anyone else have not yet the group members? Tak ada lagi group. Okay. Hopefully ada. Duan dah dapat dah team member?
Tak lagi.
Tak boleh tu. Because all the assignment is based on project. Okay, you should get your team member by now. Okay. Kalau tidak, tak ada markah nanti. Okay.
Tadi tu saya ada tanya dalam grup kelas tu tapi semua senyap je masa tu.
Approach lah group, group itself. Okay. I'm not sure which group that I already post the thing. You may check. Okay, you may check. I cannot put them. You are the one that responsible to find the teammate. Okay. I haven't checked yet who have not yet have a group, but you should already have. 41 already done.
Ni kena buat apa ni? Maaf tadi saya masuk lambat sebab masalah lain.
You kena approach the team member. Okay. Right, so I saya kena mute. Okay, saya kena mute you nanti ada gangguan jap. Alright. Okay, 42. Last 1 minute. Takkan cari group pun saya nak kena tolong kan. Macam cari pasangan lah kan. You kena approach lah dia. Dia orang lah kena approach dia orang. Alright, 42 done. Okay, last 1 minute. You have a few seconds. 44. Right, good. Okay, 45. Okay. Alright. Can I stop the quiz now? 47. Alright, good. Okay. So the times is over. So I will stop accepting the response. Let's look at the answer. Okay. Okay, question number 1. Which requirement are related to system attribute such as reliability and response time? Which one? Reliability and response. In that part, most of you are choosing a correct answer, which we have 67% getting a right answer. Reliability and response. So, which requirement? Anyone? Tak ingat dah
Non-functional.
Non-functional, right. Okay, non-functional. Non-functional is more to constraint lah. Okay, rather than functional is the features and also the function of the system itself. Okay, so for non-functional is the constraint on the reliability, on the times, response times. Okay, question number 2. SRS stand for, okay, because of our course is named as software engineering. theories and principles, right? So it may either software requirement specification or system requirement specifications. Then because of our course is software engineering, so it should focus on software requirement specification. Most of you are getting a right answer as well lah, 71%. Okay. Yang jawab system requirement software requesting service ni, ni dah lain dah jauh dah. Okay, so kalau ada system dengan software ni, yes, actually we do have a system requirement and also software requirement. But for this, we are mentioning SRS as a software requirement specification. So, how the software works. Okay? Right, let me share. Because of this, this topic actually have 3 slides, different slide. Okay. Covering the first understanding and then requirement engineering 1 and requirement engineering 2. Okay, so actually is just informations. The summary that your friends mentioned just now is actually is all of that, just not in detail. Okay, let's go one by one. Okay, later on, actually I already I put it in separate file, but I might change to one PDF also. Can. Maybe this one is to explain more detail, okay, but never mind. I just we just look back the PowerPoint again. Okay, wait. All right, first we need to understand what is requirement. Understanding requirement, right? So what is requirement? So the question is what? Okay, what is requirement? So requirement is high-level abstract statement. Okay, and it's a constraint of detailed mathematical function specification. So when we said what is the requirement, it's a high-level abstract statement. It's kind of a statement actually, but putting in details, there is a mathematical function specifications. Okay, actually not only mathematical function specification. It can be also in tabular form or it can be in diagram form. Okay, but generally this is the definition of requirement. Okay, requirement. Okay, sometimes we also mention requirement as a bid for a contract. Okay, bid of contract, like a tender. Okay, so you have the specifications, the requirement in the bid for the bidding for the contract. In government we call it tender. Okay, also been called contract. Okay, contract, right? And again, okay, is a requirement. Okay, we call it, the statement is the requirement. Okay, and that's why I said that the notes is repeating. So requirement describe what, okay, not how. Okay, so produce one large document written in natural language, content of descriptions of what the system will do without describing how it will do it. Okay, only what, right? Not how. Okay, so the crucial process steps is to achieve the quality of the product. Okay, and the process that create it. Okay, without well-written document, developer do not know what they should develop. Customer also do not know what to expect. Okay, and both couldn't be validated, right? So where we can get a requirement? So there's a few of sources to get the requirement. Okay, it can be from the customer. Okay, in terms of documentations, meeting, interview, reports. Okay, in advance detail of requirement can be the analysis. Okay, you do a survey, you do interview, and then it will come up with the analysis, which included the scope and price, feasibility, either in technologically, economical, or organizational, or social. So this is a standard feasibility lah, that normally we do before we start a project. Okay, and also it can have the prototypes, right? So final requirement are stabilized in an iterative process. So normally requirement is an iterative process. You may improve, you may change the content. okay, based on the requirement from a few parties. When we talk about the requirement versus design, okay, so pictures on the right is to just give you a visual definition of requirement. Requirement is what the system should do, should do, okay, more abstract. Okay, you cannot touch it, right? What the system should do, you cannot see it, is in abstract. Okay, if you like, you see the image on the right side here. Okay, it's more on the function. You cannot touch the function, right? But you can touch the radio, of course. Okay, for the design is how the system should do. Remember that just now we mentioned that requirement is telling us what the system should do, but not telling how the system should do. How is on the design, okay, and more details for the design, how it will be look like, how the process should be implemented, and so on. Okay, other things to get a requirement, you can have three level. Okay, first, in the level of the business itself, the organization, and then the user level, okay, including the user requirement, business rules, and quality of the attribute. And finally, from the product level, where you define the requirement specification in terms of functional, non-functional, constraint, data requirement, and external interfaces. Okay, for easy to remember, you have three level. Okay, 1, 3, 5. Right. Business level normally is the standard of the organization, business requirement. So below it is under user level, you have user requirement, okay, aligned with the business rule. And of course, it's talking about the quality of the attribute. On the user level, the needs is user requirement, what they need, okay, aligned with the rules, business rule, okay, to achieve the mission and vision of the company or business. And looking at the quality attribute, quality of the attribute, is it to perform better, for the efficiency, for the fastest of the system, and so on. Okay, and the next level is on the product. Okay, on the product is we have the requirement of specification on functional, okay, how the system behave, the features and also function. Non-function, okay, constraint from in terms of the security issues, is it reliable, in terms of the time response, in terms of other things rather than the features and function. And constraint, others constraint, okay, it may have the policies of government, okay, in external, okay, data requirement, okay, if the product level included the data requirement, and also external interfaces. Okay, senang nak ingat kan, 1, 3, 5. Okay, actually there is a lot of type of requirement. When we talk about requirement, what is requirement that you need, right? So business requirement are the critical activities of an enterprise that must perform to meet the business entity objective in overall to achieve their mission and vision, right? So achieve the mission first, and then they can achieve the vision. So one of it is the user requirement. Okay, user requirement is a statement that writing in the natural language plus diagram for the visual, okay, of the service system provided and how it's operational constraint. Okay, this user requirement is written for customer. Okay, user requirement, the statement that written for customer. Second is a system requirement. Okay, a structured document setting out the detail of the description. Okay, this is a contract between the client and also the contractor, okay, or the vendor and the client, or the buyer and the seller. Okay, next we have functional requirement. Okay, statement. Okay, again, if you can see the statement, the language, right, same things, requirement. Statement of the service, okay, that system should provide, how the system should react to particular input and how the system should behave in a particular situation. For easiest is the service. Okay, the features and functions of the product. And next we have non-functional requirement, constraint on the service or function. Okay, offered the systems such as timing constraint, maybe government policies, development process, standardized for the quality, and so on. Okay. And next we have domain requirement, constraints on the system from the domain of operations. Okay. And again, it's requirement interdependencies, dependencies. Okay, business is actually we look into to achieve the business requirement, it should have a user level requirement to be fulfilled first, and then to achieve the user level requirement, you need to fulfill the product level first. So it should start with the below part, product level achieved, and then user level achieved, and finally, of course, the business level achieved. Okay. So functional requirement in details describe functionality of the system. Okay, that's why I said that it can be a features. We can call it features or function. Depend on the types of the software, what the users is expect the system behave, okay, and the type of the system. Okay, what the software is used for. Functional user requirement is a high level statement. Okay, because this is to show that how the system should do. Okay. Example of functional requirement here is the user shall be able to search. That's why I underline the word search. To search, the system shall provide a profile viewer for the user to read. And the last one, every order shall be allocated a unique identifier which the user shall be able to copy. So if you can see that the word to search, to read, to copy is the function of the system, right? Whereas for the non-functional requirement, okay, we have product requirement which specify that the delivered product must behave in particular of the speed of the executions, on the reliability. Organization requirement, it may have the policy or procedure of the organizations. For external requirement, it can be, like I said, the government policies, the interoperability requirement, legislative is on the government part lah, or tax kan, on more on the external lah, external one, which is not from the organization. So remember, non-functional requirement can be from the product, organizational, and also external. Diagram on the right, you can see the others example that you can have for the product requirement. It can be the portability, reliability, usability, efficiency, space, performance. Okay, all these are the example. It can be for non-functional requirement. Organization, delivery, implementation, and also standard. External, ethical, interoperability, legislative, safety, and also privacy. Okay, hopefully you can differentiate between function and non-function. Okay, function is the features lah, the features. Okay, the features, the function, the features itself. But non-function is the constraint from the product, organization, and also external requirement. Okay, you want to have a system that have a good efficiency. So efficiency is the non-function requirement lah. Okay. The evolution of the requirement. This is how the business level achieve. Again, to repeat. So the formula to remember is 135, right? 135. So that's the formula. And then we have characteristic for a good requirement. We have 10 characteristics. One of it is unambiguous. Your requirement should be clear, unambiguous, clear, clear, concise. Okay. And then testable, verified, can be verified. Okay. If you achieve it, can be verified. Okay. To search, so you can search, right? You can test. You have single testing, you have a system testing, so can be test, can be verified. Clear, concise, simple, precise. Okay, what the system should do. So you should put it clearly. Okay, correct, Of course, this is abstract, right? Correct. Okay. Understandable. That's why it should be natural language that can be normal users or users can understand the word used in the requirement. Feasible, realistic, and possible can be achieved lah. You propose the features that can be realistic, can be achieved. Independent, okay, it should be independent. Independent in terms of what? What is the example for independent? The system itself, the system itself should be independent. Okay, not depend on others. You need to create the requirement. You have depend on other system. Example, right? It should be independent. Atomic ni it's kind of centralized kan, macam nucleus kan, atomic. It should be focus, okay? Focus with the system should behave tu lah. Necessary should have a purpose, right? You create a system with a requirement that necessary. Okay, implementations free is kind of abstract one. It can be implement. Okay, the requirement should be implement lah. Okay, that's why implementation is free. Okay, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 10. Okay, but this is actually not fixed to all this, but this is based on the suggestion of the characteristic to have a good requirement. So talking about the exercise, is the below statement is a function or non-function requirement? Explain your answer. So the class roster system should be able to print out a list of students in the class, including names, student ID numbers, and major informations, putting 25 names on each page. So what do you think? This one is functional or non-functional?
Functional.
Yes, good. Yeah, you can see the word to print. So it's a part of their features and function. Okay. Second question, which of the characteristic of good requirement does the below requirement statement lack? Okay, explain your answer. Okay, at the end of the game, the software should display a score report indicating the percentage of questions for which the student knew the correct answer during the game. So what do you think? Which of the characteristic of good requirement list that they are lacking in? Anyone? Anyone? Salah tak apa, just try your answer. Which characteristic? We have 10 characteristics just now, right? So which one do you think is lacking in this requirement statement? Just have a try. Which do you think? If you want me to show you again what is the characteristic, this the 10 characteristic. Which one do you think the statement just now is lacking? What do you think? Anyone? Understandable lah. You also don't understand, right? Okay, can be. Okay, anyone else? Yes, can be understandable. You couldn't understand well, right? Yeah. Anyone else want to try? Necessary. Why Aiman? Why Aiman necessary? I'm not sure why necessary. What do you think?
Supaya semua tahu apa yang diorang betul, apa yang diorang salah.
I thought that there's a part of features that the system should show the good answer, right? Okay, I don't know why the reason you choose necessary. Okay, because I don't think that there is a because your definitions might differ with others' definition. That's why the question just now is quite abstract. For me, it's more on clear. Okay, if you can see the statement just now, they mention indicating the percentage of equations. So not in details lah. How many percentage? Okay, is it the correct percentage? Is it the wrong percentage? In details, not in detail. That's why I think that the clearance of the concise clear of the statement is not so clear. Like I said that Actually, it's based on your understanding. If you think that necessary is a part of it, it can be, but you need to justify it. For me, clear. Just now, siapa tadi mention on the apa ni? Yep. Just now, someone mentioned understandable Siti Nur Afifah. Yes, it can be. Yes, I also find it's a little bit difficulty to understand. Okay. Apa sebenarnya kan? Should apa to display directly saying that to display report, right? Something like that lah. Okay. Okay, that's first part done. Anyone to ask a question? Did you get something? At least you get the 135 just now. Boleh dapat? 135 business level 1, 3 from the user requirement, and the third part is the product level. Kan, in the product level you have function, non-function, constraint, data requirement, what else? One more, the interface, external interface requirement. Okay. On the user level, you have the user requirement, business alignment or business value, and the last one is apa tu? Quality. And the business level, of course, to achieve the business objective lah. Okay, and then the good characteristic. Okay, we have 10. Okay, we have 10 listed. At least you understand why we need to have the requirement and the definition of the requirement. What is the definition of the requirement? You can say contract, you can say the statement, the height level of the statement, right? Okay. So don't worry, we have another part that have more explainable on the requirement engineering. Okay, let me stop first in this part. Okay. Can I continue to the next part? Boleh terima lagi? Simple.
Boleh,
kan?
Doktor.
Boleh.
Simple, right? Later on, I will give you a summary on that. But actually, the video your friends did just now is giving you a summary. Okay? Wait, let me share. This is the second part, okay, on the requirement engineering itself. Okay? Bigger first. Right. So, requirement engineering. Okay, when we talk about engineering, is the process. Okay, process established for the service, for the customer requirement. Okay, and then talking about the constraint on the system operates and also system develop. Okay, so engineering is a process actually. Okay, requirement, it can be functional or non-functional. Okay, for functional is talking or describing a system or service or features and function. Non-functional is about the constraint of the system on the development process. Okay, you want the system to be efficient, reliability, perform, faster, improve. Okay. So again, keep remind us the evolution of the requirements starting from the business level, user level, and also product level. Okay. So next, the terminology, okay, the term that used in this requirement engineering. First, requirement. Again, requirement defined by a statement, and the statement is for customer. Okay, we have written it for customer. And then next, we have software requirement specification, or in short SRS. This we will do in tutorial sessions. How we need to create software requirement specifications. So it's a structured document. Okay, mostly it comes with the template, but you might have a different template. Every company, every organization might have a different template based on what they want to see the requirement from the user requirement or the that depend what kind of requirement. Okay? Mostly it's talking about the software. It also can be a contract, okay, between the contractor and developer. Okay, it also contractor and client can also. Okay, but because of the software is on the development, of course, contractor and developer who are the one who develop lah. Provide a mechanism, okay, where if you are proposing the requirement, okay, and someone, some authorized person might have putting a comment, either want to modify it, edit, or remove some of the requirement. Okay, so it's a mechanism, to have a communications between the bidders or the contractors and also the developers, and can be with the client and also the seller, the client and also the developer. The user requirement should be translated into generic as much as possible, because this is the level that users should understand. Okay, what they need is stated there, was the statement there, and it can also be a blackboard. Blackboard is a need so that user can leave a comment. Blackboard, it can be in the storyboard. Okay, it can be in simple way how to deliver the needs of the users in one statement or in the visual diagram and so on. Okay, this one is example who are finding the user requirement. User requirement can be from the client manager, system and users, mostly end users, right, when we talk about user requirement, but it also may came from the managers, engineers, contractors, okay, system architects, okay, and the requirement specifications, okay, on the end users, maybe from the client, architects, software developers. Okay? The one is not much. When I'm not too strength, to put in strength, or that's not so important lah. So of course, talking about the cost, if something wrong in the requirement, okay, you are giving not a correct or precise or not a good, not a good requirement, it will taking a cost, right? Because you are not having a good requirement, it may costly, okay. And of course, cost, talking about the expensive lah. Either you want to rebuild again, okay, and then continue first phase, okay, first phase to getting the requirement, okay. And this has been proved by the previous studies that reveal 37% of the problem developing challenging system are related to requirement phases. Important when you are doing the final year project or research, requirement is important, because when you develop a project or system, who are your end user or target user? So to create a system that fulfill the needs of your your end users, okay, the requirement phase is important. So we have a lot of requirement, right? Just now we have a few types of requirement. Okay, requirement engineering process is the process used for RE, widely used. Okay, normally when we talk about engineering, requirement engineering is widely being used in all organizations. Okay, and common activities in the process of requirement engineering is to find a requirement elicitations, the process, requirement analysis, requirement validation, and requirement management. Requirement elicitations too is to find out more details about the activities, like the process to create the system or the software. Okay, analysis, the finding, okay, you analyze it to get the finding. Validate, okay, can be validate. Management, in terms of the planning, in terms of the planning of the management. In practice, requirement engineering is an iterative activity. Okay, you know the word iterative. It can be written back. Elicitations, when you are doing elicitations, you may come back later on to look back the requirement of elicitations. When you are trying to validate it, you may turn back to add the analysis process. So it's have an iterative, go back, forward, and back or forward, so on. Okay. Instead of we have the process, we also have the stages. Okay, stages in requirement engineering. We have starting with the discovery, requirement classification and organization, requirement prioritizations and negotiation, and requirement specifications. Meaning discovery. Okay, you discover a lot of requirement, then you try to classify it. Okay, classify it and organize. Okay, organize it in structured lah. and then make it prioritize which one is the highest prioritizations, and try to negotiate that which one is the highest prioritized and the lowest prioritized, and then you can come up with the final specifications. So like mentioned before, RE or requirement engineering is iterate. You do a feasibility and the requirement and then requirement definitions, and it will turn back. It's either this using this method or this kind of spiral method. Okay. In the process of requirement, one of it is requirement elicitations. Okay, and to get the elicitation, there is a few techniques. Okay, one of it is asking. By asking, asking is interview. Okay, interview the users, interviews the client. Okay, Delphi techniques, you can Google the details of Delphi techniques. Okay, or brainstorm sessions. Okay, you have a group and then you ask them. What is your issues, right? What you need actually. Ask by asking. This is the first technique. Second technique is observe. Okay, by doing observation. Okay, observation can be giving the task analysis. You give one system to them, ask them to complete the task, and you look how they do, right? By observe them. Scenario analysis, you give a scenario and then you do analysis based on your finding. Ethnography, demography, general gender based. Okay. Form analysis, kind of survey. Okay, you can using a form. Okay. Synthesis, not synthesis. I think this one synthesis from existing system. Okay, you already have the existing system. You want to improve it, right? So synthesis from the existing system, or others technique can be from the analysis of natural language descriptions, domain analysis, business process redesign, prototyping, role play, use case analysis, a lot more, documentations, and so on. Okay, so this is general knowledge. Okay, how to go through the requirement elicitations. Elicitation is to get more details, okay, on how your system should be. So you can dig out by these three techniques. Okay, requirement and design. Okay, of course it come together. Then when you do implementations, planning, you have the requirement, hardware, software requirement. Okay, after that you have the requirement of the design. What kind of the design, right? So in principle, requirement should state what the system should do. Okay, in statement. But design is telling you how it does. Okay, it shows in visual form. Okay, in practice, requirement and design are inseparable. It's come together. You show the requirement with the design. Okay, there is a few issues. Okay, one issue is weak problem. Okay, where most large software system address weak problem which are so complex that they can never be fully understand. This is on the issues of after the system lah, for the system. Therefore, requirement are normally both incomplete and inconsistent. Okay, ni ada something wrong lah. The weak problem is something wrong, which is not correctly been done. Okay, so thus it make your requirement is incomplete or inconsistent. Issues number 2, your requirement is inconsistency. Okay, effect that the new system will have on it. It will hard to anticipate the effect. Of course, sometimes large software system must improve the current situation, right? You are proposing a new system that should improve from the previous system or existing system. So it's hard to anticipate the effect that the new system will have on the organizations, unless because the new system have not been developed, right? So it's hard lah for you to see the effect. So it may come up with the requirement inconsistency. Different user, yes. Some of the system is purposely developed for one company, right? But due to the purpose of the company, okay, maybe they are doing same inventory system, right? But the other company inventory system with different domain. Maybe one is on apa ni toys kan, children toys, okay. Another one is inventory on grocery, right? Different toys might have a different characteristic on the apa ni apa jenis-jenis toys tu kan, ikut apa ni kartun ke apa kan, but on grocery it have a different, it can be on the grocery of apa makanan ringan kan, apa ni grocery on the cooking materials, right? So different users, okay, different users and different purpose might have a different requirement and priorities, okay. System end user and organizations who pay for the system have different requirements. Same things lah, different users of course will turn out with different requirement. So prototyping is often required to clarify requirement. Okay, sometimes people couldn't understand based on only the documentation, the statement, right? So you need to see the visual part. That's why it come together with the design. Okay, but sometimes with the design also you couldn't imagine how the system works, right? So you need a prototype. Prototype for mobile as example. Of course, it will need times for you to show your client how the system will look like, right? But they are on visual, okay? They are maybe a client using visual, kan? They more understand on the visual part. So maybe you can use Figma, kan? Figma to show that after you click this button, it will goes to the next page where you can navigate to the details of the the details of the explanations on the certain product and so on. So prototyping lah is the more easiest to make your requirement more clear, clarified. Okay. Other issues is requirement clash. Okay. Spacecraft system to minimize weight, the number of separate chip in the system should be minimized. However, to minimize the power consumption, lower power chip should be used. So however, using a low power chip may mean that more chip have to be used. So which is the most critical requirement? Okay, the minimize the power consumed or to minimize the weight. Something like that, clash issues. Okay. And granularity. So all these are issues that may happen when you are creating when you are writing the requirement. Okay. Requirement may range with different level range. Besar lah dia punya scope, right? Maybe it's quite big. Okay, that's why sometimes we may need to put the scope of the works that shows more proper that your work, your project is until this you can do. Constraint of the system. Okay. Example, this application shall give an user the ability to check an availability room at our hotel. So to detail function specification, this one lah. But this one is not a natural language that can be understood by the users. So you need to change it to this kind of statement. Okay. Reviewing requirement. Okay. After you done the requirement, of course you need a validation, right? Before validation, someone need to review it first. Okay. Each individual requirement should have, of course, all this. Okay. On the reviewing, you should look into the benefits, the important part, the clear and consistent of the notation, unambiguous, consistent, sufficient quality, realistic, verifiable, unique, and does not over-constrain the design of the system. So you don't have to remember all this, but make sure you understand lah. A requirement will go through for the requirement, validation, reviewing, okay, validation and so on. Requirement document structured. Okay. Later on you will do SRS, right? So this is the structured. When you do a document, this is the structured of the documentation. Okay, first you have the introduction, okay, requirement definition, describe need for the system and how it fits with the business objective. And then you have functional requirement, describe the service to be provided in details. It can become with your module and so on. Non-functional requirement, okay, define constraint on the system. Okay, you are proposing a system that improve efficiency of the company, so on. System evaluation included the business level, users level, and also product level. Okay. And lastly, glossary. Okay, define technical term. Okay, some of the term users might not understand. So you need to have a glossary. Okay, that one is referring to what? End users is refer to who? Something like that. Okay. Requirement for document. Okay. Your document, okay, your document should specify external system behavior, specify implementation constraint, easy to change, serve as reference tool for maintenance, record for talk about the life cycle of the system, example predict change, characteristic response to unexpected event. Okay, so this one is just a checking, right? Should consist all this. Okay. Rational, okay, requirement rational. Okay, it is important to provide rational with requirement. Rational ni macam description ni lah, more details on the requirement. Okay, of course the requirement is in one statement to provide what, right? And then you have the rationals come together with the requirement. This help the developer understand the application domain and why the requirement is stated in its current form, and particularly important when requirement have to be changed. The availability of rational reduce the chance that change will have unexpected effect. This is just definition on rational, why we should have the rationals. All right, writing technique. Okay, to write system development, software requirement specification, there is a lot of techniques here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 technique. Okay, it can use a notation of natural language, using a numbered sentence. Number 1, what the requirement? Number 2, number 3. So the numbers is represent one requirement each. Okay. Next, structured natural language, which is the standard form. Okay, like I said, that the company is already have the standard template or form that you need to fill in. Okay, fill in the form. So that's the SRS, structured natural language. Next, design description language. Okay, using a programming language together with the abstract features, defining operational model of this approach should now rarely being used, although it can be useful in interface. Okay. This one is using a programming language. That's why try to make it more general, right? That's why this design description language is quite rare being used, because of I think that this is not a generic user requirement. Some of the user is hard to understand it, okay? Because in some of us couldn't understand the programming language, but this one is more on pseudocode. I think this one is showing the pseudocode come with the design interface, something like that lah. Graphical notation, okay, using a graphical models where you have the use case, UML use case, sequence diagram, activity diagram, okay, using the diagram, the flow chart and so on. Next, using the mathematical specification, of course, the word mathematical, using the mathematical concept lah. Ada notation, kan, plus, minus, then after that, next what happen. Okay. And okay, in writing techniques actually can be formed into two groups, okay, either in non-structured or structured. If non-structured, meaning is a natural language, okay, if structured, in the form or in the tabular base. Tabular base is the inilah table form. Okay, so every techniques have pro and cons lah. So for non-structured, okay, typically used when writing requirement definition, and using non-structured, it will have a problem may arise lah. One of it, lack of clarity. Okay, because non-structured is using natural language. Natural language is just now using a number sequence that might not clear lah to you, kan? Okay. Requirement confusion. Okay, functional and non-functional requirement tend to be mixed up. Okay. Requirement amalgamation. Several different requirement may be expressed together. You mix up. National language guidelines. Okay. This is guideline when you want to start writing the natural language using the non-structured. Invent a standard format. Okay, consistent, use language in a consistent way. Use text highlighting, okay, to identify key part of the requirement. You can put the main functions in a bold, right? So people will identify that that's the main function, and the italic may be the additional subsections of the main features. Okay. Avoid the use of computer jargon, directly use the correct word, so easy for us to understand. Okay. Include an explanations. Of course, each features must together with the explanations. Can search, how far it can be searched. What is the behavior of the search engine that you provided. Okay. And also why it's necessary lah. Okay. Problem with natural language. Okay, natural language relies on the specification readers and writers using the same word for the same concept. Okay, caution, safety issues must be one. Okay, a natural language specification is over flexible, okay, and subject to different interpretation. Okay, like just now, your interpretation and my interpretation might be different, right? Over flexible. Requirements are not partitioned by language structure because it can be in one particular requirement without divided which one is the main, which one is the second level of the if you are using DFD, I'm not sure that you have learned or not. Using a DFD, we have level 0, level 1. Okay, structured specification. Okay, this is a standard way. Okay, remember what is structured one? Wait, let me go back to remind you. Just now, non-structured issues on the natural language. Okay, now we are talking about the structured, where it can form base or table form base. Okay, so for structured one, the structured one is the standard way. Okay, this works well for some types of requirement, for example, embedded control system, but it's sometimes too rigid for writing business system requirement. Form-based, definitions of the function or entity, description of the input, where they come from, description of the output, where they go to, information about the information needed, description of the action to be taken, pre and post condition, the side effect. This is from the form-based. Okay, like I said that it might different from one company to have their own SRS. Okay, let's look into the example of the form base. Okay, like example, this one, it have specific content input that you need to fill in on the function, and also description, input, source, output, destination. Okay, example for the tabular. Okay, tabular condition and action. Okay, used to supplement natural language, particularly useful when you have to define a number of possible alternative course of action. Alternative, which is good at using table form. Condition this one. So what is the action? Condition 2, what is the action? Okay. For example, the insulin pump system base its computation on the rate of change of blood sugar level, and the tabular specification explain how to calculate the insulin requirement for different scenario. This is an example of the insulin pump system. All right. So to summary, for the requirement engineering part 1 is talking about requirement is what the system should do and define the constraint. And instead of that, requirement also have a functional requirement where it set out a service the system should provide. In other words, functional requirement is talking about the service itself, what the features and function. Other things is non-functional requirement is constraint. Constrain the system being developed or development process. Okay, how reliability, how the delivery process. Okay, and user requirement is a high-level statement. Okay, telling you what the system should do. Okay, user requirement can be written using natural language, table form, or diagram. That's all. Okay. Nampak macam banyak input kan, but actually is for your understanding, knowledge, kan, knowledge base. Okay, at least you can get the key point. Okay, it's repeat. Yeah, if you can see, it's repeat the same thing. The definition of requirement, functional requirement, non-functional, and also user requirement. Alright. Okay, in here also you learn the technique, right? The types of requirement, apa lagi? Issues, what else? Most of it is quite similar with the one for understanding the requirement just now, right? Okay, boleh? Anyone to ask a question? Okay, we have last. Okay, last one. Okay, bear with me. Like I said that, hopefully you just understand what is requirement, functional, because it's repeated. You can say that it repeat again what is requirement, functional requirement, and non-functional requirement. Meaning that that's the term that important to understand. Okay, last one. Okay, can I go for the last part? Boleh lagi?
Boleh,
Macam
Doktor.
bercerita je kan. So bercerita kan syok kan, mendengar bercerita kan. So hopefully you can understand lah my story, my storyline. Okay, all talking about the requirement, software engineering requirement. Okay, so requirement engineering part 2. Okay, again, it's repeat the same formula 135. Okay, from the business level, user level, product level. Make sure to achieve the business level, you must achieve the user level. To achieve user level, you must achieve the product level. Okay, so 135, right? Okay, determination and specification. Determination is about discovering the requirement, document them in a narrative form. Discovery, take the name of elicitations, interview. If you wait, let me check first. This is just explanations on determination on the specification. Okay. If you still remember, discovery is part of the stages. So to discovery is actually is quite similar with elicitations, where you have a few techniques. Remember just now, ask, observe, and other kan. Normally interview, you also always do to find a requirement is interview survey kan. Actually it's more than that. You can base on document analysis, review of the current system, okay, give a case study, brainstorming among the team, do apa lagi, prototyping, and then ask them to test first, okay, and is this the system that you want to, okay, or what you think that it can be improved, okay. Specification provide more formal way of a requirement. Okay, when we talk about specification, what is the specification, what is the requirement, is quite similar, right? But specification provide more formal of a requirement. So the requirement of elicitations again, kan? Remember requirement elicitation is in what? In what explanations you found the word elicitation just now? Process, kan? In RE, okay, RE, you have the process, you have the stages, right? So elicitation is the process, okay. In the process you have stages. So dia balik itu juga, kan? So to apa ni? To find the requirement elicitations, the process is actually this is the stages. The requirement discovery, requirement classification and organization, prioritize and negotiate, and also requirement specification. Finally lah, come up with the requirement that documented. Okay, boleh? Kan? Dalam RE ada proses, dalam proses ada stages, kan? Macam itulah lebih kurang. Okay, problem with requirement elicitation. Stakeholder don't know what they really want. Stakeholder express requirement in their own term. That's why, like I said that when I work in frame before, okay, stakeholders is among the researcher that they actually don't know what they want actually. What they need is the output. Okay, the system will work as what they want. Something like that. But my job is to translate their language into the developer language. Okay, to have this system, it should have the authorization system should be included, where the researchers needs to approve all the new data being input by the public, something like that. So I become the translator lah. That's why I'm the project manager and also facilitator. That time we call it facilitator lah. Okay, different stakeholder might have a conflict requirement. If you only have one stakeholder which is talking the same language, easy. But how if you have a different stakeholder? My case, our stakeholder, our researcher have a different field. There is a group of researcher working on the flora bunga. Others group are working on the fauna, binatang, kan? Others are living thing lah. So we want to make a centralized database for this flora fauna that we form together. We call it biodiversity. Biodiversity is all living thing. Okay, include lah flora fauna. So the requirement should fulfill these two group, which is talking about the flora. Flora, when we talking about the flora kan, dia ada family big. Contoh orchid. The family for the orchid we call it Orchidaceae. Okay. After family, you can Google lah. After family, you will find a group of genus. The second level genus. Okay. There are a few genus. Okay, genus. In below genus, we have species. Species is the macam jenis-jenis satu-satu. So species 1, species 2, species ada orchid apa. Orchid selipar tu kan, orchid macam-macam jenis orchid tu, we call it that one species. So in fauna, they don't have a genus, but they do have a family. Okay, what we call in big family, but they don't have genus. They what they call, I forgot because it's already 10 years ago kan. Saya lupa sangat dah, more than 10 years kan. So so you need to make it standardized. Both flora, both fauna, you need to identify the criteria to the classifications of flora and fauna and make it together lah into one biodiversity database. Okay, and of course every organizations also might have a conflict on the political kan, birokrasi, something like that kan, top management. That's happened in UMS lah, while we want to innovate a new system okay, for calculating the MIRA. MIRA is to get rating for the university, right? We have a conflict. When we want to propose a new system, ada je birokrasi dia. Everyone will, because kalau you nak create a new system, it's taking very high cost. Okay? High cost and high risk. Okay? Normally they are proposed us to only improve a certain part, but what for if the system that we have tambah sikit-sikit kan, kita macam buat rumah, you tambah sikit lah, tambah bilik sikit, extend sikit dekat depan, extend sikit belakang. Kadang-kadang jadi cacah marbah. Kalau jadi well structured, okay. Kadang-kadang dia jadi cacah marbah, you tambah sini kan. So that's why actually we are proposing a new system, revamp everything. But of course, because of the bias kan, cost, tender, it will increase kan, so banyaklah issues. Okay, so political bias, bureaucracy is always in the organization, especially in the government lah. You need to follow follow the requirement. If the cost is over 500,000, you need to open tender. You cannot just find some company and all the money goes to them. Itu dah macam mungkin kan, who knows that you have advantage kan, you giving them the project, they are giving you money, tak pasal-pasal SPRM, something like that. That's very crucial lah on the government issues. Okay, if you read a news kan, ada lecturer daripada UMS yang overuse of the grant given, banyak issues, not only UMS, I heard USM and tak kecuali lah UiTM juga kan. So a lot of this external and also internal. Okay, requirement discovery. Okay, this is the stages kan. Remember, this is the stages. Requirement discovery, after you discover, you need to classify and organize it. Okay, and then prioritize or negotiate. Okay, which one you can you can pull it first because you have time limit, right? So based on priority only, and then you come up with the specification. Okay, in requirement discovery is the process of gathering information. So this is the phase that you will interact with your stakeholder. Okay, that's why project manager should align your project value, okay, with the system the system or software that you want to develop. Okay. Alright, so there's a few techniques to to get a discovery. Discovery, there is many techniques. First technique, interview. Actually, you can see that this is similar with which one tadi just now. Yang asking dengan observe, kan? But this one is in detail. Interview is asking, right? Interview, okay. Type of interview, it can be closed interview or open interview. Closed question or open question, kan? Close question tu, you memang dah give option to them. Which type of system that you want to develop, yes or no, example macam tu. Open interview, you ask them randomly, what kind of system do you want? Okay, I want the system really. So no, open. Any issues can be explored more lah, but dia lebih besar lah range dia. Effective interviewing, be open-minded. Okay, sometimes you ask one question, it will continue to the next question, kan? Masalahnya ni, macam mana tu, boleh cerita secara detail. Macam tu lah. From the interviewee to get discussion. So jangan one feedback saja. Dia kata, okay, system should behave like this. Okay, you should ask more, right? You should ask more, okay? You should ask more detail because you are the one that will creating the requirement and also will send to development process, right? Okay. Sometimes to make it more clear, you can sketch the storyboard. Is that the system that you want? Okay. After this, you will go to you need to get more detail. That's the good thing about interview. You can get more details. Okay. Rather than survey, kan? Survey you bagi, maybe you randomly pass out, okay, but you don't know in details. Okay. Dia kata, kamu suka tak? You suka tak dengan sistem ni? Tak. Habis, stop, right? But interview tak. Kenapa? You will continue the next question, right? Kenapa? Okay, what's the problem with the current system? So interview is the good thing actually lah, but it's taking time, and of course every technique have a pro and cons lah. Use case, okay, use case. Second technique is using a use case. Okay, this is well known. UML. Later on you are using this use case. Okay, you are doing UML. Okay, UML use case. Okay, you need to draw the role and also ni lah scenario, kan? Scenario. Okay, a set of use case should describe all possible interaction in the system. High level graphical model supplement by more detailed tabular description. Okay, it's come together with the UML. Panggil apa tu? Description in table form. Panggil use case table. Apa panggil apa lupa saya. So only this one is followed by the table lah. Okay. Sequence diagram may be used. Sequence diagram, and also we also have an activity diagram. Okay. Okay, this one we will do in tutorial session as well. Last technique is, I think this one is last technique. Scenario. Scenario, a real life example of how a system can be used. They should include a description of starting situation. You give a scenario to them. Okay. That's why scenario, a real life example. Then the description starting from the situations, normal flow, what can go wrong about other concurrent activities, a description of the state when the scenario is finished. Okay. Oh, okay. Another one is ethnography. Ethnography, a social scientist spend a considerable time observing and analyzing how people actually work. This one is actually done by social science. Buat survey. Ethnography ni mostly social science yang buat lah, bukannya pure science. Kan? Pure science dia directly yang lebih detail kan. Ni social science tu dia buat survey, analysis kan. And then dia get the finding. Kan? Daripada situ dia boleh kata, okay, sistem yang diperlukan adalah begini, 30% setuju bahawa macam tu lah kan. Social and organization factor of importance may be observed. Ethnographic studies have shown that work is usually richer and more complete than suggested by simple system model. Actually, ethnographic is also powerful of the technique lah, but some of the pure science need work together with the social science lah to get a better finding. Okay, of course it will include the analysis phases yang menggunakan PLSM, SPSS. Okay, sekarang computer science tak ada belajar benda tu, more on social science lah. Okay, requirement that drive this one. Requirement that are drive awareness. This one is talking about explanation on the ethnography. So normally in this graph, okay, check out this graph. So ethnography start with debrief meeting, focus ethnography, what kind of gender, area, geography that you choose, prototype evaluation. Okay, you give a prototype to evaluate, or it can be direct to system prototyping, and maybe it return back to the debrief meeting, and finally generate system development. Okay, so normally it come together with the prototype, like easy for you. Last, normally last, validation. Okay, valid. After you review, of course, you need to validate your requirement. Okay, concern with the demonstrate that requirement define the system that the customer really want. Requirement error cause a height, so validation is very important. Fixing a requirement error after delivery may cost up 100 times the cost of fixing on. That's why requirement is the most crucial part. Requirement ni biasanya dia part planning and analysis lah, planning, more on planning. Okay, prototyping is an important technique of requirement validations. So ada prototype lagi senang untuk buat validation. Okay, requirement validation techniques can be done using the requirement review, okay, system manual analysis of the requirement, using a prototyping, okay, using an execute model, proof of concept lah, like a proof of concept. Test case generation, developing tests for the requirement to check testability. Okay, requirement checking, validity, does the system provide the function which best support the customer need? Consistency, are there any requirement conflict? Completeness, are all functions required for the customer included? Realism, can the requirement be implemented given available budget and technology? So checking on these 4 types: validity, consistency, completeness, and realism. Okay, and then requirement reviews again. Regular review should be held while the reviews is after you validate. Of course, sometimes after 1 year you done the job, you need to review again the requirement, right? Okay, it may need to improve or added features. So this is meaning by requirement review. Bukan review yang first tadi ya. This is the review after done lah. Regular review should be held while the requirement definition is being formulated. Both client and consultant staff should be involved in review. Review may be formal or informal. Good communication between developer, customer, and users can resolve problem. Okay, because normally review is not only from the planning phases, it can be while you implement the requirement. Okay, you want to check again, review lah. Okay, and then after you complete the system, you want to review again that all the features are included, completeness developed, still review. See, it's not only on the planning phase, implement, and also on the testing or on the delivery part. Okay, so requirement traceability. Okay, traceability is concerned with the relationship between requirement trace to checking kan, traceability. Source traceability link from requirement to stakeholder who propose this requirement. Requirement traceability link between dependent requirement. This design traceability link from the apa ni? Yep. Okay, keluar dulu berat teks tu. Kan traceability. Okay, I think some word truncated here. Okay, never mind. Okay, let me see what is the word. Design. Kita tinggal word pula. Okay, this is just the explanations in detail of the phases and also the stages. Okay, requirement evaluations always evolve as a better understanding of user need is developed and as the organization objective change. It is essential to plan. This is just inform you that the evolution process may need, that's why we call it iteration. It can be going back, forward. Okay. Requirement class, and during requirement, stable requirement derived from the core activity of the customer. Volatile requirement which change during development or when the system is in use. Either in the enduring requirement or volatile requirement. Actually, we did not until that lah, kan? But this is just for your additional knowledge. Yeah? Changing a requirement document, okay, changing a requirement should be organized so that the requirement change can be made without extensive rewriting. External reference should be minimized and the document section should be as modular as possible. Okay, this is the flow. Requirement and system inconsistent. Okay. Change are easiest when the document is electronic. Kan? Kalau if your requirement is in form, kan? Macam ni, macam satu kontrak. Ini kontrak sewa rumah kan? Kontrak sewa rumah saya lah kan? Okay. So kalau macam ni, it's very hard for you to change unless you review and then you return back to those yang that have a soft copy, so you can change and print it out again. Okay, summary for the second part of the RE. System requirement are intended to communicate. Actually, system requirement is a communications tools. Okay. A software requirement document is an agreed statement. Dia macam contract kan, agreement, agreed statement. Okay, on the system requirement that need to be developed lah. So the IEEE standard is useful starting point for defining more detailed specific requirement. You can Google what is IEEE standard for RE. Okay, there is a standard lah, macam standard ISO kan, ada number-number dia tu kan. So this is a IEEE standard for RE lah. That's all. Boleh tak? Banyak input kan, tapi that all is just knowledge lah, knowledge. So overall, actually, look at back your friend's summary of the video presentation just now. Okay, in requirement engineering, first the evolution involve 135. Remember 135? Business level. Lagi apa? Ni dengar saya cakap tak? Ke dah tidur dah? Business level. User level. Finally,
Product level.
product level. Okay, let me stop sharing first. Okay, and then in writing requirement engineering, you have functional. It may include functional and also non-functional. What is functional requirement? Feature, service, how the system behave kan. Okay, non-functional is a constraint on the process development. It may be the reliability, it may be the security issues, usability, and so on. Okay, and then in RE, requirement engineering, we have four process. Okay, for getting the requirement engineering. First is requirement elicitation. Right, in elicitation, you have three techniques. What is it? Asking, observe, or others, right? And then you have the requirement analysis, and then requirement validation, and finally requirement management. Some of the, that's why I said that that's many repeat notes, but some of the detail of the requirement have not been explained kan. Tapi saya explain lah tadi kan, elicit, and then you analyze, and then you validate, and then it goes to the management for the planning kan, iterative. Okay, other than process, you have stages. Okay, stages for RE, you have requirement discovery. After discovery, what you do? Classification and organization. And then prioritize and organization. Negotiate. Prioritize and negotiate. Maksudnya yang mana satu priority yang nak buang ke nak masuk kan. And finally baru you keluarkan specification. Kan, lepas tu apa lagi? What else? What is structured to write SRS? First you have what part? They have 5 structured. First is introduction. Yes. Second, what should be functional requirement. Next, non-functional. Next, system evaluation, and finally, glossary. Okay. What else? Other than that, you have a good characteristic of good requirement and unambiguous. Test apa ni can be verified. Testable, clear, correct, feasible, independent, atomic, necessary. Okay, implementation free, understandable. Kalau objektif ni banyaklah dalam soalan macam ni. Objektif banyaklah tanya. Subjektif pun ada juga, but in general, not only for the explanations lah. That's the overall, right? So the most important part here is later on you will do your SRS for your project, and one more is what is that I mentioned just now? The UML, UML. You will do your own use case, something like that. Okay, boleh? So overall, you should know what is requirement. Kan? Requirement is the statement, kan, or contract, or apa lagi nak panggil dia? Okay, it's a communications tool, kan, between the developer and client, or developer with the contractor, ataupun contractor pula. Betul lah, contractor. Apa lagi? So in general, statement, contract, communication tool, something like that. So if you understand requirement, okay. So talking about engineering is the process. Kan? Requirement engineering is the process. So requirement is the statement, engineering is the process. So what is the process? Adalah elicitation, analysis, validation, management. So to gather all the process, you have a few stages: discovery, classification, and organization, prioritize, and also negotiate, and finally specification. And then structured in SRS. Okay, and you have two types of SRS actually, structured or unstructured, right? So normally we are using the structured, the form-based easy, because they have their own form and template. Okay, do you still hear me? Because my battery is okay, good.
Yes, Doctor.
Alright, so hopefully I'm not make you doze, tertidur ke, tak adalah kan. So hopefully you can understand. Saya bercerita ni kan, actually. Saya bercerita sebenarnya ni kan. Okay, alright, good. Okay, thank you for the response and also for the icon. I think that's all for today. Any questions? We have 1 week more, okay, to do your tutorial. Okay, after that, you will have your test. Your test should be in week 7, good, week 7. But let me confirm next week the detail of your test. Okay. Alright, I think that's all. Don't forget to sign in attendance. Right, don't forget to sign in attendance. Okay, if no other questions, let me stop the recording first. Okay.